In the vast savanna, where the golden grasses swayed in the warm breeze, Nia and her calf Kia roamed freely with the rest of the herd. Nia, a majestic matriarch with tusks curved like arcs of the moon, had been watching over her calf since the moment she gave birth. Kia, still young but growing quickly, had become her constant companion. Every day, they would travel in search of food and water, moving between the trees and the river banks. Nia was patient, teaching Kia the ways of the world, how to use the trees for shade, how to avoid the dangers of the predators that prowled in the shadows, and how to rely on the herd for protection. They communicated with soft trumpets and rumbles, the language of their kind, a language that spoke of love, trust, and a bond that would never break. Kia, however, had a playful spirit, one that led her to wander just a little too far from her mother. She would chase butterflies, stomp through the tall grass, and even try to mimic the elder elephants in their graceful movements. But Nia always kept a watchful eye on her, ready to step in when needed. The poachers came under the cover of darkness, moving stealthily through the grass with rifles slung over their shoulders. Their mission was clear: capture and kill. They had been tracking the herd for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Kia was separated from the herd, curious and unaware of the danger. As she wandered near the edge of the savanna, she felt a sudden chill, a prickling sensation on her skin. She turned, only to see the poachers emerging from the shadows, their faces cold and menacing. Before she could trumpet a warning, one of the poachers lunged forward, knocking her unconscious with a blow to the head. The last thing Kia remembered was the sound of her mother's voice calling her name, then everything went black. Nia's ears flicked nervously as the poacher's truck rumbled off into the distance, leaving only the faint echo of its departure. She stood motionless for a moment, her trunk stretched out toward the now empty savanna, trying to catch the scent of her calf. Every inch of her body screamed in panic, but she remained resolute. She would not allow her calf to be taken away. With a determined trumpet, Nia signaled the herd to move on. The other elephants sensed her urgency. They all followed, keeping their heads low as they carefully navigated through the thick brush. But Nia, unlike the others, stayed focused on the trail that had just been forged, the scent of the poachers and the fading footprints of the truck. She could feel the weight of her calf's absence like a physical ache in her chest. Every step she took felt like it pulled her further from the safety of the herd. But Nia's heart was fierce, and she pressed on. Kia awoke to a world of confusion. Her head throbbed with pain, and she felt the rough surface of something cold against her side. Slowly, she opened her eyes and blinked in the dim light. She was inside a wooden cage, the bars harsh and unforgiving. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and smoke. Kia's heart began to race. She was no longer in the open savanna but trapped in an unfamiliar place. She could hear muffled voices outside, the poachers talking amongst themselves. They had her. They had taken her away from her mother. Her first instinct was to trumpet loudly, to call for Nia. But she knew deep down that it would only make the poachers angry. Her mother had taught her to be patient, to wait for the right moment. The young calf huddled in the corner of the cage, trying to comfort herself with thoughts of Nia's strong, protective presence. She had to be strong, just like her mother. Nia didn't stop. She ran for hours, each moment filled with a new level of desperation and determination. Her massive feet pounded the earth, leaving deep marks in the soil. She could hear the distant roar of a lion, the cries of birds taking flight in the trees, but none of it mattered. She had one goal: Kia. Her thoughts raced as she pushed forward, running toward the scent trail left behind by the poachers. As she approached a dense thicket, she slowed, hiding behind the thick brush to avoid being detected. There, she saw it, the poachers' camp. A large fire burned in the center, surrounded by makeshift tents. The truck that had carried her calf stood nearby, and Kia's scent hung in the air. Nia could see them. The poachers, men in ragged clothes with cruel faces, were sitting around the fire, laughing and talking about their bounty. Kia was not in sight, but Nia knew that the poachers had her locked away somewhere nearby. Her mind raced. She couldn't just charge in and risk getting shot. She needed to be smart, stealthy. With quiet steps, Nia circled around the camp, scanning for an opening. Her trunk waved gently through the air, tasting the wind for danger. She had to find her calf, and she had to do it without alerting the poachers. As the night deepened, the poachers' voices became lower, their attention shifting as they relaxed. This was her chance. In the dead of night, Nia made her move. She charged, her large frame crashing through the underbrush. The poachers barely had time to react before she was upon them. The force of her charge sent several of them scattering in fear. Nia's trunk lashed out, knocking over their fire, sending embers flying into the night air. Her massive tusks gleamed in the dark as she used them to knock over barrels, creating chaos and confusion. The poachers screamed in panic, struggling to rearm themselves, but Nia's attack was swift and relentless. In the confusion, Nia heard Kia's faint trumpet, a soft, almost inaudible call. Her heart skipped a beat. Nia turned her focus to the cage where Kia was held. With a mighty push, she tore apart the flimsy wood surrounding the cage, sending it crashing to the ground. The poachers, realizing what was happening, tried to shoot, but Nia was already in motion. Kia, who had been huddled in the cage, stood dazed but safe as she saw her mother charging toward her. The sight of Nia, the pillar of strength, made Kia feel safe again. "Mom!" Kia trumpeted, her voice shaky but filled with relief. Nia nudged her gently, guiding her calf toward the cover of the trees. The poachers were still recovering from the shock, but they wouldn't stay down for long. Just as Nia and Kia were retreating into the safety of the forest, the rest of the herd appeared. Led by the matriarch, McKenna, the elephants stormed the poachers' camp, shaking the earth with their powerful steps. The poachers, now completely outnumbered, panicked. McKenna, with her powerful tusks, charged the leader of the poachers, knocking him to the ground. The rest of the herd followed suit, pushing the poachers away with sheer force and strength. The poachers, terrified and beaten, tried to escape, but the herd had already surrounded them. The elephants, led by Nia's strength and courage, protected the young calf, making sure the poachers had no chance of causing harm. As dawn broke over the savannah, the poachers had been taken care of. Local authorities, alerted by the nearby rangers, arrived to arrest the criminals, ensuring they would face justice. The herd had done its part, and the bond between mother and calf had been tested and proven unbreakable. Nia and Kia, now safely back within the embrace of their herd, shared a quiet moment together. The bond they shared, forged through danger and love, was stronger than ever. The elephants knew that their fight for survival was far from over. Poachers would always lurk in the shadows, seeking to harm them. But they also knew that, together, they could face anything. Nia and Kia, mother and child, would always be a reminder of the strength that came from the love they shared and the lengths they would go to protect each other. The morning sun was just beginning to rise over the savannah, casting a golden light across the land. The once quiet, serene expanse was now alive with the sound of elephant trumpets. Nia and Kia, after their harrowing ordeal, stood side by side, their bond stronger than ever. The herd had gathered around them, the mighty elephants enveloping them in an aura of strength and protection. As the elephants moved through the savannah, their massive forms casting shadows on the earth, the atmosphere felt different. Nia's triumphant return was not only a personal victory, it was a victory for the entire herd. The poachers were gone, and the savannah was peaceful again. But the fight was far from over. Poachers still roamed the wild, lurking like shadows, ready to strike at any moment. But with the herd united in the strength of Nia's leadership, there was hope that the battle against them could be won. Weeks passed since the poachers were captured, and the elephants moved through their familiar territory, always alert. But one morning, as Nia and her herd approached a waterhole, they noticed something strange. A small group of humans was gathered nearby, not in the usual camps, but in a way that made the elephants wary. Nia's large, amber eyes narrowed, and her ears flicked nervously. She stood still, taking in the sight, her trunk sniffing the air for danger. However, the humans didn't look like poachers. They weren't armed with rifles or looking for trophies. Instead, they were holding tools, setting up a station for some kind of project. One of them, a tall woman with short hair and a calm demeanor, stepped forward, holding out a bottle of water in a gesture of peace. Nia took a cautious step back but remained watching. The woman's face was kind, and her eyes reflected no malice, only curiosity and respect for the elephants. "Hello, Nia," the woman said softly, almost as if she had known the great matriarch for years. I'm Lila. We've been waiting for you. We're here to help. Nia hesitated, sensing no immediate threat. Her instincts told her to approach carefully, but the woman's voice, calm and non-threatening, intrigued her. Slowly, Nia took a step forward, her trunk gently reaching out toward the woman's hand. It wasn't a gesture of friendship, not yet, but a tentative acknowledgement. Lila smiled and stepped back, giving Nia the space she needed. I know it's been hard for you. For all of you, Lila said, looking over at the herd. But we've come to help protect you. We want to make sure no one else has to go through what you did. Nia stood with her herd, watching the humans work. Lila and the others began setting up cameras, building a perimeter to monitor poacher activity, and planting trees to restore the habitat. It wasn't just a gesture of goodwill, it was a lifeline for the elephants. They could see that this group of humans had a deep respect for the land and the animals that roamed it. Lila approached Nia cautiously, her hand raised in the air. We've set up cameras that will help us keep track of poachers, Lila said. You're not alone in this fight anymore. We want to help you keep your home safe. Nia's trunk lifted, and she turned to her herd. She could sense the uncertainty in their hearts. They had been betrayed by humans before, but something about Lila and her team felt different. The humans weren't the enemy, they were trying to make a stand against the poachers, just as the elephants had done. Over time, Nia and the herd grew accustomed to the presence of the humans. They worked together, monitoring the savanna for any signs of poachers, making sure that the elephants could roam freely once more. The partnership between the elephants and the humans strengthened with each passing day, as they shared the common goal of protecting the wild. Despite their best efforts, the threat of poaching never fully disappeared. Late one afternoon, a group of poachers managed to slip through the monitoring system. They were armed with rifles, determined to hunt for ivory and other animal parts. They crept quietly through the underbrush, believing that the elephants were unaware of their presence. But Nia, with her sharp instincts, knew something was amiss. The air had changed. The ground felt different beneath her feet. The herd was on high alert. Nia, with her trunk extended, led the herd to a higher vantage point. She stood still, her eyes scanning the horizon, and there, on the edge of the savanna, she saw them. Poachers. Without hesitation, Nia trumpeted loudly, warning the herd. The elephants responded immediately, their trumpets filling the air in a symphony of urgency. The poachers were startled, their plan disrupted. But Nia was already on the move, charging forward with fierce determination, her massive body slicing through the grass like a storm. The herd followed her, their powerful legs shaking the earth with every step. They didn't need to be told what to do, they knew their role. Together, they would defend their home. They had already faced the poachers once, and they would not let them destroy the savanna again. The confrontation was intense. The poachers attempted to fire their rifles, but they were no match for the combined power of the herd. Nia's tusks glinted in the fading light as she charged directly at the poachers, knocking over their equipment and sending them fleeing into the bush. The other elephants followed, using their trunks and tusks to dismantle the poachers' camp and send a clear message: this land was not for them. Lila and her team arrived just in time to witness the final stand. They had heard the trumpets, and now, they could see the elephants driving the poachers away. It was a victory, not just for the elephants, but for all those who had worked together to protect the wild. The poachers, realizing they had no chance, scattered into the jungle, abandoning their rifles and equipment. The elephants had won again. In the days that followed, the poachers were apprehended by local authorities, thanks to the collaboration between the elephants and the human team. The poaching operation was dismantled, and for once, the savanna felt truly peaceful. The elephants roamed freely again, their lives no longer threatened by the specter of poachers. Nia and Kia, reunited with the herd, walked side by side as they had always done, their bond stronger than ever. The horizon before them was wide and open, filled with possibilities. They had faced unimaginable dangers and emerged victorious, but they knew the fight for their survival would never truly be over. Yet, in this moment, they were safe. They were free. And for now, that was enough. Even as peace settled over the savanna, a new challenge loomed. The elephants had won the battle against the poachers, But the war for survival was far from over. Nia, standing at the edge of a hill, gazed out over the vast landscape, her large ears flapping gently in the warm breeze. The savannah was beautiful, but it was fragile. The future of their kind depended not only on the absence of poachers but on preserving their entire ecosystem. Lila, now a familiar and trusted ally, approached Nia with a thoughtful expression. "We've made great progress, Nia," she said, her voice quiet but resolute. "But we need to ensure the future of the elephants and their habitats. The forest is disappearing, and with it, many of the animals' food sources. Climate change is affecting the entire ecosystem. If we don't act now, it could become even harder for elephants like you to survive." Nia looked back toward her herd. She could feel the weight of her responsibility, the future of her calf, Kia, and the entire herd rested on her shoulders. She turned to Lila, her eyes meeting hers with understanding. "We will protect them," Nia's presence seemed to say. Lila nodded, her heart swelling with both admiration and concern. "We can't do this alone. We need more help, more resources. It's time to get the word out. It's time to fight for your home in a different way." The decision was made. Lila and her team reached out to conservation organizations, local governments, and even social media influencers to rally support for the elephants and their habitat. The message was clear: the fight to protect elephants wasn't just about stopping poachers, it was about safeguarding entire ecosystems that were vital to the survival of countless species. Lila's campaign quickly gained momentum. News outlets around the world began to cover the story of Nia, Kia, and the heroic herd that had faced off against poachers to protect their home. The world was finally taking notice, and with it, a renewed commitment to the environment was sparked. People from all walks of life, from everyday citizens to prominent environmental leaders, began to contribute to the cause. Fundraisers were launched, and trees were planted in efforts to restore the habitat. Nia and her herd, unknowingly becoming symbols of hope and resilience, roamed the savannah as they had always done, but now there was a palpable shift in the air. The earth seemed to hum with a new energy, a sense of collective responsibility. As the days turned into months, Nia's herd began to notice changes in their environment. While there was still danger from poachers, the greatest threat now came from the encroachment of agriculture and deforestation. The savannah's vast plains were shrinking, and much of the land that once provided food and water for the elephants was being cleared for farming. One particular morning, as Nia and her herd wandered near the edge of their territory, they encountered a new and disturbing sight: large machines were tearing through the once pristine land. The noise of the bulldozers and chainsaws filled the air, a constant reminder of the rapid loss of their home. The herd stopped in their tracks. Nia's ears flicked forward, her body tense. She moved closer to the front of the group, her trunk raised, sensing the urgency. This wasn't just a threat to their home, it was a threat to everything they knew. Their lives, their futures, depended on the land. With a deep, rumbling trumpet, Nia stepped forward, her massive form moving purposefully toward the machines. Her call was a challenge, a warning. The machines stopped momentarily, but the workers inside didn't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. Kia, now growing stronger and wiser, stood beside Nia, learning from her every move. The other elephants, too, began to trumpet in unison. The power of their voices was enough to halt the progress of the machines. The workers, stunned and fearful, climbed out of their vehicles, realizing that they were no match for the mighty herd. Lila arrived just in time, accompanied by a group of conservationists. She called the workers over, her voice firm but calm. "This land is protected," she said. "You need to leave immediately." With the support of the conservation team, the workers were escorted away from the land, but not before the message was clear. In the months that followed, the restoration of the savannah began. Efforts to replant trees, restore water sources, and protect wildlife corridors gained traction. Lila and the team continued their work, advocating for policies that would protect not just the elephants, but all the creatures who called the savannah home. Nia and her herd could feel the changes. The land began to thrive once more. The trees grew taller, and the grasses greener. Kia, now a young adult elephant, stood proudly next to her mother, ready to take her place as a protector of the savannah. The bond between the elephants and their human allies deepened, and they had created a new future, one in which elephants could roam freely, and their home could flourish for generations to come. Nia stood on a hill once more, the vast expanse of the savannah stretching out before her. Her herd was safe, her calf was strong, and the future was filled with promise. The fight had been long, but they had overcome every challenge with resilience and courage. As the sun set, casting a brilliant orange glow across the horizon, Nia trumpeted softly, a sound that echoed through the savannah, a sound of triumph, hope, and the beginning of a new era. The story of Nia and her herd spread far and wide, becoming a beacon of hope for conservationists around the world. Their victory over poachers, deforestation, and the dangers that threatened their home inspired countless others to take action. The elephants had not just fought for their survival, they had fought for the survival of an entire ecosystem. For generations to come, the elephants of the savannah would continue to roam freely, a testament to the power of unity, resilience, and the partnership between humans and animals. Nia's legacy lived on in every trumpet, in every stride of her herd, and in the hearts of those who fought alongside her to protect the wild.